आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे 18वीं शताब्दी की जो राजनीतिक संरचनाएं हैं कि उस 18th सेंचुरी में जो पॉलिटिकल फॉर्मेशन होते थे वो कैसे होते थे। तो आइए पढ़ते हैं। तो लर्निंग आउटकम क्या है इसके? द लेटर मुगल्स, द मराठा, द राइज ऑफ रीजनल पावर्स। तो मुगलों के बाद क्या स्थिति थी वो जानते हैं। After the death of Aurangzeb, a war of succession broke out among his sons as well, and his eldest son, Bahadur Shah, came out victorious to succeed him on the Mughal throne, but he could not control the rising power of the Marathas and the Sikhs. He died in 1712 and was succeeded by his son, Jahadar Shah. During his reign, two brothers, Hussain Ali and Abdullah, generally known as the Sayyid brothers, became very powerful. They played an important role in the Mughal politics. They became king makers. They wanted the Mughal king Jahadar Shah to become a puppet in their hands. But when he refused to do so and tried to become independent, they got him murdered after a brief reign that Banda Bahadur, the daring Sikh general, so was captured and tortured to death. Farrukh Shah's reign lasted for 6 years, 1713 to 90. As he tried to free himself from the yoke of the Sayyid brothers, he too was put to death. The next notable king raised to the throne was Muhammad Shah, whose rule lasted till at 1748. With the help of some supporters, he was able to overthrow the Sayyid brothers, but this help cost him dearly as his supporters declared their own independence in this way. Alivardi Khan in Bengal, Sadat Ali Khan in Awadh, and Nizamul Mulk in Hyderabad became independent. So Muhammad Shah himself came to be known as Rangila because of his love for pleasure and merrymaking. At the same time, the Marathas, the Sikhs, and the Jats increased their powers. The invasions of Nadir Shah in 1739 and Ahmad Shah Abdali in 1761 shook the Mughal Empire. It could not become stable again. The rise of regional powers. When the Mughal Empire became weak, many regional kingdoms rose which were under the Mughals. The three largest provinces to become independent were Awadh, Bengal, and Hyderabad. We will talk about first Awadh. The decline of the Mughal Empire caused the emergence of Awadh as an independent state comprising the regions around Lucknow, Kanpur, Banaras, and some areas near Allahabad. The rulers of Awadh succeeding in establishing peace and justice, curbing lawlessness, improving the revenues of the state, and organizing a powerful military force. They also extended royal patronage to the growth of art and literature. In the 19th century, however, the constant interference of the British led to a decrease in the authority and power of the Nawabs of Awadh. Bengal. Bengal gradually broke away from the Mughal control under Murshid Quli Khan, who was appointed as the governor of the province. He transferred his capital from Dhaka to Murshidabad. He seized all the powers. He commanded the revenue administrations of the state. He brought about changes and ordered major reassessment of the revenues of Bengal. Murshid Quli Khan was succeeded by Shujauddin in 1727, who ruled till 1739 after him. Alivardi Khan and Sirajuddaulah became the rulers of Bengal. The rulers of Bengal looked after the administration as well as agriculture, industry, and trade. So Bengal became quite prosperous. The English were attracted to the Battle of Plassey, 1757, and the Battle of Buxar established British control over Bengal. Hyderabad. Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah founded the Hyderabad state in 1724. He was the noble of the Mughal Empire and served as the governor of the Deccan. So he gathered power in his hands and established his control and became the actual ruler of that region. He brought skilled soldiers and administrators from northern India who welcomed the new opportunity in the south. He appointed Masabdas and granted Jagirs. The Mughal Emperor Muhammad Shah was so weak that he couldn't control the Nizam. The Rajput. Some Rajput rulers were also made governors of provinces of Jagirs by Akbar. Raja Savai Jai Singh of Amber was made the governor of Malwa. Jai Singh later founded his new capital at Jaipur. Okay, during the rule of Aurangzeb, the relationship between the Rajputs and the Mughals deteriorated. The Rajputs fought the Mughals to safeguard their Jagirs and their homeland. Thus, Aurangzeb was forced to maintain troops near Rajasthan to safeguard the empire form of the Rajputs troops, which could have been used to fight the Marathas. The Sikh and the Punjab. After the death of Guru Gobind Singh, who had transformed the Sikhs into a militant organization, the leadership passed into the hands of his humble disciple and general organization, General Banda Bahadur. Under him, the Sikhs became a major force in the Punjab and threatened the Mughal authority between Lahore and Delhi, till at least Banda was finally captured and tortured to death during the reign of Farrukh Siyar in 1760. The Sikhs organized themselves into small groups loyal to their individual leaders. These groups came to be known as misls, which were 12 in number. So these misls carried their activities within their territories and cooperated with one another, but they could not unite as a single power till the end of the 18th century, when Ranjit Singh of the Sukhir Chakya misl brought the whole area west of the river Satluj under his control and established the Sikh kingdom. These were, however, Sikh principalities of Patiala, Nabha and Kapurthala on the eastern side of the Satluj. Rise of Mysore. Hyder Ali 1761-82 and his son Tipu Sultan made Mysore very powerful. So Tipu was known as the Tiger of Mysore. है ना, Tiger of Mysore के नाम से जाने जाता था. With the help of the French, Hyder Ali established a modern castle at Dindigul. Tipu Sultan even made efforts to build a modern. Both father and son fought against the English. Hyder Ali defeated them in the First Anglo-Mysore War. Tipu Sultan died fighting the English during the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War in 1799. Now next we will talk about Maratha. Maratha means Chhatrapati Shivaji. In the 17th century, the Maratha, who were chieftains, came to power. So Maratha served in the kingdom of Ahmednagar, Bijapur and Golconda. So when these kingdoms crumbled, the Marathas declared their independence. There was also a regional kingdom that was opposed to the Mughals. Shivaji and the Mughal. The growing power of Shivaji worried the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, who sent Shaista Khan to punish Shivaji. Okay, Aurangzeb sent Raja Jai Singh of Amber to capture Shivaji. So Jai Singh, beside the fort of Purandar, Shivaji was supposed to sign a treaty. So most of his forts were taken by the Mughals. Shivaji was sent to Agra, where he was humiliated and he left the court in anger. So he was put under arrest, but Shivaji again escaped from the jail in a fruit basket. Aurangzeb did his best to recapture Shivaji, but in vain. Shivaji as a king. After returning from Agra, Shivaji began his conquest. He conquered one fort after the other by AD 1674. He conquered much of his lost territory. He was then coronated as Chhatrapati Shivaji, the ruler of the Maratha Empire at Raigad. Civil administration. His kingdom was divided into three parts: the Swaraj own kingdom, which was directly under the Marathas, Mulk-e-Kadil, the old territory, and the Mughlai. So adjacent Mughal territories which had to pay revenue to the Marathas. So the Swarajya territories was divided into a number of provinces known as prants. Each prant formed a group of several districts. Revenue system. Shivaji abolished the system of jagirs and paid officers in cash. So the revenue system was well managed. The Swarajya areas had to pay 2/5 of the land produce as the land tax. So the Mughlai area had to pay two taxes, which Chauth and Sardeshmukhi. So the Chauth was 1/4 of the revenue paid to the Mughal government, and Sardeshmukhi was an additional 1/10 of the revenue. The peasants were not, however, harassed. They were advanced loans were required. Shivaji was not an arbitrary ruler. He had appointed a council of 8 ministers called the Ashtapradhan, who advised him in carrying out the administration of his territories. Military administration. He maintained a regular army which comprised of cavalry, infantry, artillery and navy. He had about 200 ships in his navy. His soldiers were paid well, so they never went on rampage. A system of graded ranks was followed. Jagir were not granted to anyone. Shivaji perfected the art of guerrilla warfare. Shivaji observed strict discipline in his army. So there were orders that his soldiers would not misbehave with women and children. Okay, so no, चाहे वो दुश्मन की क्यों नहीं होते थे, वो औरत और बच्चों को नहीं मारते थे. Nor would they defile the religious places. और जो धार्मिक जगह होती थी, स्थान होते, उनको टच भी नहीं करते थे of the enemy. Shivaji built a network of forts. These forts were of great help in defense. These forts were well maintained and strongly garrisoned. They were generally under a havaldar. He was assisted by a Brahmana Subedar for civil and revenue administration. Shivaji was a devout Hindu but a great religious. Tolerant people of all religions were treated equally. Causes of Shivaji's success in building a strong state. The Marathas under Shivaji were able to build up a strong and independent state. Various factors helped them in this direction. So the conflict between the Mughals on the one hand and the two Deccan states of Bijapur and Golconda on the other afforded them the opportunity to build up their strong and independent state. So the leadership of a great leaders like Shivaji enabled them to organize themselves into a strong nation, powerful enough to thwart all the opposition and aggressive actions of the Deccan states and the Mughals. The hilly terrain of Maharashtra and guerrilla war tactics also enabled them to successfully face the large armies of the Deccan state and Mughals. So the Marathas under Shivaji were able to lay the foundation of an excellent administrative machinery, both civil and military. Due to their unique revenue system, the Maratha was successful in carving out a strong and independent state. Marathas after Shivaji. After his death, his son Sambhaji continued the struggle against the Mughals. He was captured and tortured to death in 1689. His son Sahu was imprisoned by Aurangzeb. He was succeeded by his stepbrother Raja Ram, who did not submit to the Mughals and carried on the struggle against them till at 1700. After his death, his minor son Shivaji too became the ruler of the Marathas. His mother Tarabai became his regent and began to look after the affairs to the kingdom. She was a brave and courageous lady. Under her able guidance, the Marathas once again became a formidable power in the south. She organized guerrilla warfare against Aurangzeb efficiently and forced him to give up the ideas of the conquest of Maharashtra. After Aurangzeb's death, Sahu was released from jail. A civil war broke out between Sahu and Tarabai for the throne. The Marathas were thus divided into two hostile groups. Balaji Vishwanath took up the cause of Sahu and helped him to capture the throne of the Maratha. Sahu appointed him the Peshwa or Prime Minister in AD 1730 because he had re-rendered useful services to him. Sahu was an ease-loving and incompetent ruler. He left the reins of the government in the hands of Balaji Vishwanath. So Balaji Vishwanath concentrated all powers in his own hands and became the real ruler, while Sahu was only a titular head of the state. So he made Pune the capital of the Maratha kingdom, while Sahu lived at Satara. Balaji Vishwanath was succeeded by his 20-year-old son, Baji Rao I. He was a bold and brilliant commander, an ambitious and clever statesman, and an able ruler. He knew the weakness of the Mughals and wanted to extend the Maratha Empire in northern India. He conquered Malwa in 1724. Then he marched towards Gujarat and forced its governor to submit to the Maratha demand, the Chaudh of Sadeshmukhi. He also compelled the Nizam of Hyderabad to pay the arrears of Chaudh and Sadeshmukhi. He seized a large portion of Bundelkhand in AD 1737. He crossed the Yamuna and reached Delhi. Muhammad Shah sought the help of the Nizam. His 18-year-old son Baji Rao became the third Peshwa in 1740. King Sahu died in 1750 and the Peshwa became the virtual ruler of the state. So under his rule, the Maratha power reached the height of its prestige and glory. He followed the footsteps of his father and further extended the empire in different directions. The Maratha armies now overran the India. The Maratha conquered central India. Bengal was also invaded again and again. At last, Ali Vardi Khan, the Nawab of Bengal and Bihar, the Nizam of Hyderabad, was also defeated and compelled to cede vast territories in 1753. The Maratha captured Delhi in 1758. They seized Punjab from Abdali by 1761. The Maratha flag flew over the fort of attack. Abdali invaded India and fought a fierce battle at Panipat in 1761. He inflicted a crushing defeat on the Marathas and gave a severe blow to their power and prestige. So their dream of establishing a Hindu empire was dashed in the ground. Baji Rao died of shock in 1761. After the death of Baji Rao, his son became the Peshwa. He regained the lost fortunes of the Maratha Empire. He died in 1772. So after his death, three Peshwas, namely Narayan Rao, Madhav Rao and Baji Rao too, ruled one after the other, but the Maratha power began to decline. They fought four wars with the English and ultimately their rule came to an end in 1880. Weakness of the Maratha. The Maratha power suffered from certain weaknesses which were responsible for its downfall. Number one, the Maratha failed to establish a single empire under one strong central authority. Number two, the Marathas could not emerge as united nation because of mutual rivalries and quarrels among the various chiefs. Number three, the policy of expansion was suicidal. They conquered a vast area from Attack to Cuttack but could not exercise effective control over it. Number four, the defeat of the Marathas in the Third Battle of Panipat gave a severe blow to their power and paved the way for the rise of the British power in India. Number five, their policy of plundering and looting the Hindu states of northern India alienated them from the Rajputs, Jats and Sikhs. Number six, their army was no longer a well-knit unit of their countrymen. The increase of foreign element in it weakened the army. Number seven, the Maratha did nothing to promote agriculture, trade and industry. Number eight, not only this Maratha hordes robbed both the Hindus and the Muslims of their riches and raised taxes such as Chaudh and Sadeshmukhi. So the result was that they failed to win the confidence of the people and lost their sympathy. Number nine, the Maratha also failed to transform their state into a modern state and could not face the English successfully. Okay, so all topics are covered in this chapter here. I hope you all are very well understand this. We will meet you the next class. Thank you.